After its globe-trotting adventures, the iRacing IndyCar Series heads back to pastures familiar, where tonight live from Iowa Speedway, we get set to hit the halfway marker of 2022 Season 3. Hello everyone and welcome along to RaceSpotTV, where once more, it's Monday night IndyCar action, where alongside with myself, Arjuna Kankipati, I'm joined in the RaceSpot commentary booth by the one and only Andrew Kinsella. And Andrew, it's been an electrifying start to this campaign as we get ready to work our way across the US and some of the staples of American open wheel racing. Today we go to the fastest short track on the planet.
Absolutely. It's so exciting to be back in Iowa and have a preview of what is to come this weekend in the real world here, Arjuna. But as you say, the beginning of this season has been fast and furious for this IndyCar Open Series in this 2022 Season 3. And the action has not let up, and I don't expect it to let up here tonight. But also looking ahead at the schedule, what a schedule we have for this second half as well, with some classic IndyCar circuits to come here in this second half. So really excited for that as well.
The only thing which maybe is going to frustrate some of our drivers as we look at the back half of the season is the fact that with the new version of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway confirmed to come to iRacing, it's likely not going to be in time for next week's race, but at least it'll be a nice swan song for the venerable old scan that we've been campaigning for many a year. Let's talk about the championship standings though as we get underway with 90 seconds left to go before qualifying is done. Brandon Traino, after the record points haul in the previous season, has built on that even after some struggles in our opening couple of races. David Porcelli in second, Christian Steele up to third with John Beautiful fourth, Rashad Craig through the top five. Many strong names, but it's always good to see some new faces. Daniel Arujo in 10th position with 617 points, and it's why we like these official championships, Andrew. It's an opportunity for those around the world who want to try an IndyCar, want to try it against iRacing's best, to come out and have some fun.
Absolutely it is, and of course we broadcast the Monday night split of this series, but of course they run every 2 hours all throughout the week, and you can see that with Daniel Arujo not appearing on our Monday nights yet, but still breaking that top 10, so it just goes to show you that even though you might not make the top split on a Monday night, you can still have a good run in this championship and find some good racing throughout the week.
And I'm very much of the opinion of I like these. The way the schedule works for us, Andrew. The first race is the strength of field race, where the most points are on the line, when the drivers try and show up and be prepared. It makes it feel like a special occasion. No one knows what anyone's walking in with.
Absolutely it does, and it gives the drivers a week to prepare after the previous Monday night. It allows them to shift their focus to the next week, but at the same time, many of the drivers, they don't shift it too quickly because they do show up throughout the week in these open races once they have that setup built. So it really does produce a nice balance between an event that we see every week and then still having some good racing throughout that week as well.
Well, here in Iowa at the fastest short track on the planet, we're ready to get underway with round 6 of this 2022 Season 3 iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. And once again, it's Christopher Demerit and Brandon Trainer that will lead us to the green flag. 16.737. A quarter of a tenth off. Brandon Trainer will be on the outside of the front row. Rocket ship lap times in store for us here tonight. Brendan Lichtenberg continues the i5G contingent, but Robert Malechka spoils the party in the Powerslide Motorsports number 2 on the outside of row number 2. Alexander Van der Sant, David Porcelli share row 3 of the grid, while behind them Chris Wilhite and Andreas Eich will roll on row 4. Mitchell Welker makes the top split of an oval race for the first time in a while. He'll be inside of Matt Taylor to complete the top 10. Aaron McQuarrie and Connor Harrington 11th and 12th positions, while 13th will see Powerslide Motorsports Laura Gerhard, David Henger alongside. John Bodefort impressed us last time at Motegi with back-to-back oval races on our agenda. Kevin Burrell will line up alongside him. Ken Cram, Rashad Craig through the top 18. It's a big old field of 23 cars that are going to get stacked up and loaded. Robin Glenix, Rodrigo Franzoni, and Aaron Roos, the final cars with lap times on the board. Christian Steele has it all to do as he works his way forward from 22nd position. Isaac Smith, the final car in our 23 car field. As you look at this field as they get ready to get underway, Andrew, what are you thinking? Who's looking strong with qualifying in the books?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of chaos here today, Arjuna. Particularly, you see some of the stronger names towards the back of the field, like Christian Steele. He's going to be going through this field pretty quickly here, I think, given the speed of some of his teammates up towards the front. But look at some of the names like the Satellite Racing Team drivers on row 3, Powerside Motorsports on rows 2 and 3. Some of the teams who haven't necessarily had the best short track setups so far this season definitely seem to have taken a step forward here at Iowa this week.
And as we get ready to get underway, let's quickly talk about tires, Andrew, because with the speeds that we see here, 17 odd second lap times, the right front's in for a beating.
Absolutely it is. That right front is just going to get cooked throughout the course of the race, particularly with this afternoon skybox we have, of course, mimicking the real world setup that we will have for this weekend's doubleheader. And it really does mean that these drivers are going to have to take good care of that front tire.
As always, we build ourselves up for another week of exciting NTT IndyCar Series action. Get another pace lap because of the relative short length of this track. And let's reflect on IndyCar being back in your neck of the woods, Andrew. What fun it was to be back in Toronto just this past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to see Toronto back on the schedule after our 2 years of COVID absence there, and it put on a heck of a show, I'd say. There was a lot of action throughout the field and a great crowd as well.
I love the championship, the way that's playing out in the real world. It's a little less close for us here in the virtual world. Passing, how are you going to get it done?
I think you just got to find that clean air, whether it's turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You really got to find the clean air and keep up your momentum. If you let your momentum go, it's going to cost you maybe 2 or 3 laps before you can get it back. So that's going to be the key here today.
160 laps at the fastest short track on the planet. We're ready for a doubleheader weekend of real-world IndyCar Series action. Today we preview the thunder that will bring to Iowa with 23 IR18 stacked up and ready to go. i5G in control. Demerit picks up the throttle. We're racing in Iowa. just look at the speeds as they get underway. Tires still struggling to get into the window as Traino looks to the outside of Demerit, looking for some clean air on the nose. But Demerit leads from Traino, Lichtenberg, Malechka, Van der Zandt, the top 5.
Here comes Traino down to the inside through turns 1 and 2. Looks like he might just be able to slide up in front of his teammate there, and he does get the lead there coming out of turn 2.
Nice and tidy, but to some degree will the 3 up front, the i5G trio, work together and try and ensure the power slide duo behind are unable to work their way forward. Connor Harrington already past Aaron McQuarrie, now looks to try and get on past on Matt Taylor, another car that impressed us a week ago. But at a track like this, we saw that Motegi maybe didn't require too much setup work. This, though, a very different kettle of fish. Malechka trying to go to 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely. Setup is going to be very, very important, especially as the run goes on here. As we said, that front tire will really start to wear as this run goes through and the tires start to wear up. But Malechka's really trying to work this bottom side on Brendan Lichtenberg right in front of him, but he just can't seem to quite get him clear coming off these corners. He's going to have to try maybe be a little bit more aggressive with his sliding up on the exit of these corners if he wants to make this pass happen.
We're seeing Malechka looking down low. In contrast, behind them, Wilhite went around the outside of David Porcelli, and now trying to follow the number 4 on through is Andreas Eich, as they both will clear themselves of that VRS satellite racing machine. They're still side by side for 3rd position, allowing the duo up front to break away. Malechka, 3-4 laps after it started, finally able to get the move done.
And that really goes to show you, I think, a typical Iowa pass here today. It's going to be multiple laps trying to make it happen. And the big thing for Malechka was that he had a lot of clean air to make it happen. If he didn't have it on the nose like his teammate did there, I don't think that he would have been able to get by Lichtenberg nearly as fast as he did. But it's going to be very difficult to make passes happen just in one corner. It's going to take multiple corners and really a lot of patience from these drivers to make it happen.
Chris Wilhite almost running the wall the previous set of corners, this time a little bit down low as they exit off of turn 4, trying to pinch Andreas Eich to the inside. Connor Harrington looks to the inside, and Mitchell Welker is through 1 and 2 they go once more. Outside line working strongly for Wilhite. Welker still trying to fight back.
Yeah, and you could see that the bottom line wasn't really working there for Andreas Eich in the Team Talent car, and it's a little bit of a hornet's nest in here, and you got to be really careful at this point in the run, because this is where the tires just start to go away just a little bit, and you have to be very, very cognizant, even corner to corner. As the tires start to let go, you might be drifting up where you weren't intending to. So this is where it starts to get treacherous for all these drivers here.
They are starting to get single filed out. We talked about the wear on the tire, especially the right front. Let's talk you through the track conditions. Past 3:30 p.m. on the 23rd of July virtually. It will get cooler from here, but 42 degrees on the track. Of course, the load on the tire, though, the significant factor when it comes to thinking about the tire strategy. While Harrington and Welker still go side by side, Andreas Eich is slotted into line behind Chris Wilhite for the time being, and Rob Malechka is all over the back of Christopher Demerit. i5G with a great car to roll off this race, but Malechka and Powerslide coming on strong.
Absolutely is, but you can see Malechka just isn't able to make that pass happen on that inside lane. Already into this run, it's really difficult to make it happen in that outside lane. You're just able to roll it so much better, keep your momentum up, and that's what's allowing Christopher Demerit to stay ahead. But I would definitely say right now, at least in the course of this run, the power slide setup is looking just a little bit better over the course of this longer run.
Traino a full second clear as the gap between first and last builds to over 10 seconds almost, so we're not far away from that traffic being a factor. Riding on board with Van der Zandt for a couple of laps there. Saw the approaches Malechka tried to take, see the gap back to the gaggle of cars. Welker and Harrington have worked past Eich and Porcelli, now stuck behind Chris Wilhite. All the while they close on Brendan Lichtenberg.
And this battle isn't letting up anytime soon. And you can really see that Harrington, I think he might have been saving his tires just a little bit in the early going. He has surged to the head of this train here, challenging Chris Wilhite, and then next up, as you say, Brendan Lichtenberg. But right now, I think Connor Harrington, he's got sort of the best of the rest in terms of car strength at this point.
Close moment there between Harrington and Welker, who've been side by side for a whole number of laps, still trying to search for a line. It's almost full wide off of the corner. Andreas Ike slams the door shut on Porcelli as he looks down low on Mitchell Welker. These cars fighting in the Hornet's Nest, as Andrew described it earlier, but already ticking past onto almost lap 20 of this 160-lap race. We've seen only about 3/10 of fall off. Andrew, that's something that in the sim we have a lot less of. Harrington finally past Wilhite.
Yeah, and it was a really nice pass there from Harrington. He used that momentum from the high line, but was able to get down outside of the draft of Chris Wilhite in front. And I think that Connor Harrington's car, he's able to move around throughout the corner to different lines and really take advantage. And he's already challenging Brendan Lichtenberg for that fifth position here. So Lichtenberg in a little bit of trouble here early, and Connor Harrington starting to surge towards the front.
Harrington definitely has a rocket ship relative to the cars around him. Now 4 seconds detached from the race leader, has some work to do to try and close that one back up. Welker will get in front of the Indy Alliance Racing number 4, that purple machine, under fire immediately then from Andreas Ike, who looks down low. But Welker, another car that's surging. Rodrigo Franzoni, we didn't really mention what a difficult qualifying session that he had, but +9, our biggest mover so far in this race. He's knocking on the door of the top 10.
And I think it's telling that Franzoni is +9 and Christian Steele is only +5 so far in this race. It really goes to show that Franzoni has a really good car underneath him. And this is really what you can start to see from this early going. Obviously, we have a long way to go, over almost 140 laps here still left to go, but you can really start to see whose cars are working well in the long run and who's maybe struggling just a little bit with that overall balance with the car.
Still side by side for 8th position as Welker looks down low on Lichtenberg. Plenty of battle packs, and traditionally, Iowa might seem like more of a nighttime race. Andrew, I know you and I both may be a little disappointed at the upcoming doubleheader broadcast, both races to be broadcast on network television on NBC. We're a bit disappointed it's not going to be during the cooler nighttime conditions, but it means it's a big challenge for the drivers.
Yeah, it absolutely does, and we saw that last year with the IndyCars when they went to Iowa as well. Just the amount of fall-off, even compared to the sim, it's even greater in the real world, because obviously the track surface, this is about 6 or 7 years old now on iRacing, but it is weathered in the real world a lot more. But we see a battle here at the front of the field, and this is Demerit and Malechka just not letting Demerit get away, but Demerit still just able to roll that really high line there, Arjuna, and that's something you don't quite see in the real world as much. You really see more of a one-line race here in Iowa these days, but it's really nice in the sim to see these cars battling side by side throughout the corners.
Oh, is this the moment? Demerit, a bit of a bobble, almost ran himself up into the wall. Malechka will clear on the entry down into turn 1, will slide up the track, chop the nose off of that number 1 machine. Malechka finally gets it done. 28 laps into this race. The gap to the leader now a full 2 seconds. Van der Sant, again like he did earlier with Lichtenberg, disposes of Demerit at the first time of asking. That power slide number 7 knows when to turn it up.
Yeah, I think Van der Sant has been really strategic in his moves so far, and I've been impressed with him so far in this race, just because what he's been doing is he's been allowing Rob to do his dirty work for him, and he's just been sitting back saving fuel, and then as soon as Rob makes a move and sort of forces an error from the guy in front, he pounces as well, and he's used up his stuff far less, I think, than that number 2 of Rob Malechka. But the telling thing here is I think that they're only gaining about a 10th here on Brandon Traino, but they are gaining just a little bit here, maybe a 10th per lap here, a 10th per lap there, but it is just a little bit more, and it is telling that Traino has that clean air, and Malechka doesn't quite have the same kind of clean air, but they are gaining nonetheless.
However, we mentioned that lap traffic might be a factor at some point during this race. You can see on these short back straightaways, on that run down to turn 3, Traino already in the midst of some traffic. Another lap, another 10th of a second going the way of the chasing duo behind it. Will take time, but time they have, as we're still lap 33 of 160, about the halfway marker of a fuel run as well, Andrew.
Yeah, although it'll be interesting to see just how many people decide to go the full fuel run here, and how many decide to try and maybe divide it up in closer to 2 equal section or 3 equal sections here, because it's going to be I think, a lot of fall off here over the course of this run in terms of lap time. So undercuts, you lose 2 laps here in terms of fuel strategy, but if the track stays green, you can make up a lot of time at the same time.
See if the danger zone will play its part. Battle for 7th stretches backward now into the midst of the top 15, with Taylor and Beaudefort scrapping for 13th and 14th. They're not far away from maybe even looking inside of a fight with Wilhite and Porcelli, 9th and 10th positions. Franzoni still running 11th, dragging the train forward into the midst of the battles in front of them. And while we've been focusing on these guys, Malechka is bringing up the tempo. Treno last time by an 18.119, still trying to work and deal with traffic. Malechka 17.892.
Yeah, that was Kevin Burrell that Treno just got around last time by, coming out of turn 4 there. So he's exposed to the first lap car, but it won't get any easier for Brandon Treno, and certainly the power slide cars are looking very strong in traffic. They were able to follow Christopher Demeritt really closely for a long period of time. They seem to be just fine in this draft here. So I'm almost wondering whether Treno's car, as strong as it was in qualifying, it just doesn't seem to work quite as well in the race as some of his competitors are at this point.
And to that end as well, as we look at Treno dealing with traffic, we'll also now look at how close Connor Harrington is to the back of Christopher Demeritt, and look at the different lines being run as well. Demeritt content to paint the yellow line, run down low. Harrington a bit more adventurous, a bit more exploratory at this stage of the race. Cap for the lead is under a second. And from starting outside of the top 10, Connor Harrington is working his way into podium contention.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really impressed me watching Harrington so far is he ducks under Christopher Demeritt here. I think he might even have him cleared coming through turns 1 and 2 if he doesn't get too much aero wash from this lap car. And he does get by Christopher Demeritt. The thing that's impressed me the most about Connor Harrington so far is that he really seems to be able to put his car not only on the entrance to the corner, but basically anywhere he wants inside the corner as well. He can change lanes in the middle of the corner, and that tells me he's got the front end of that car really hooked up. So he might not be wearing that right front tire quite as much as, say, the i5G setup is right now, and that's going to be very, very beneficial for him as this race wears on.
I think we have cars rolling to pit road, or have the likes of Christopher Demeritt just had a nightmare couple of laps, because Brendan Lichtenberg had something happen to him as well. Demeritt last time by 19.404. Now, was it a failed attempt to come down to pit road? No, as he banks off of turn number 4. What's going on with the i5G number 1? Another slow lap, an 18.689.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering whether Demeritt might have just slid and banged the wall just a little bit, because he definitely does not seem happy in that car right now. The lap times are just not there for the number 1 i5G machine.
You have to assume that maybe traffic played a factor. Let's see if we can figure it out by dialing a look up at our RaceSpotTV replay machine. So this is through turns 1 and 2. Not sure which lap this is, but you can already see that car not behaving the way that Demeritt would expect. And as he goes down, look, whoa, that is not a healthy race car.
No, so the problem was there that the lap car in front of him came down just a little bit more than Demeritt was expecting. And when you get on the brakes in this car, you shift the weight forward. When you shift the weight forward, the rears get really light, and if you're right on that edge of control already, it can just upset the balance of the car, and that's what happened with Demeritt. And then unfortunately what happens is you slide the rears, and you find it very difficult to get the balance of the car back. You're going to have to dial in some of your tools to really force the heat back towards the balance that you want, but it's going to be a few laps here before Demeritt, I think, really recovers.
And at the front, under half a second as caution flies, and right as we are entering into a pit stop cycle, Robin Glenix in front of the leaders smacks the wall down in turn number 4. We slow the tempo down for the first time today.
Yeah, heart and mouth moment for your top 3 there for sure, just praying that Robin Glenix doesn't slide down the track. Unfortunately, everyone looks to have been able to miss the spinning number 10 car. Unfortunate end for the day for Robin Glenix there, though.
And so now, the presumption would be the field down onto pit road. We'll reset everything for Treno, in front of Malechka and now Van der Sant. This is where you start to get worried. Execution on pit lane going to be so important. Lapped cars will stay out. The rest of the field down to pit road.
Yeah, this is where it's very important to hit your marks here. We've seen over the course of these weeks a few mistakes on pit road. You cannot afford to make a mistake on the pit road at Iowa. It's so tight here. Everyone's so packed up. It's very important to get the track position coming off a pit lane here.
And of course, you see its curved nature as well. Just added complication is off of the lane. Traino in front of Van der Sant, who jumps Malechka, Harrington, then Demerit and Welker. Ike will get out in front of Lichtenberg, Wilhite, Porcelli, Franzoni. The top 11 as the rest of the field will scramble on through. Van der Sant quiet in stint number 1, waited for Malechka to carve his way through and then followed in the hole that was opened. Now, behind Traino, what can the 7 do?
Yeah, I think that the 7 is probably really strong here on this second stint. I think that he's going to be able to stay with Traino with ease, but we'll have to see where it comes out. But what did I say about pit road there, Arjuna? It was a small mistake from that number 2 car of Rob Malechka. He just spun his wheels coming out of his pit box. It was a slow getaway, and it allowed Van der Sant up into that second spot, and I think that's all that Van der Sant needs to really start to attack Traino here.
Van der Sant's one of the few that's really figured out how to get out of pit road with good effects. Let's grab a look at this replay, and it wasn't by himself. And Glenix, I believe Aaron Roofs would have been the car down low, but got some assistance. I think Roofs trying to just go lower than Glenix thought was possible. Grabbed a look on board from the 23.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where Glenix wasn't necessarily thinking that Roofs was going to take a look underneath him, but Roofs, in my opinion, Arjuna, was there. And Glenix needed to give him a little bit more space than he did once he saw that move was kind of on. But things happen so quickly here at Iowa that it's very easy for a contact like that to happen, particularly through turns 3 and 4.
So I saw a couple of comments in our chat, so we'll quickly address them. First, Jacob Oster watching on, now not watching the launch of a rocket because the future of his worms was on the bubble. We congratulate you, Jacob, for having an experiment launch to the International Space Station. Can't wait to see what happens there. But I also saw a comment about, was a one-stop going to be doable? Of course, now it's somewhat of a moot point. But from this point, Andrew, how does strategy get changed up?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's going to be very interesting to see what these drivers do on this next stint. I think you're going to see a number of drivers go as long as they can here, despite the fact that the tires are going to go off just as they did in that first stint. We're going to, for a number of drivers, have a really short final stint, probably around 40 or 50 laps, where they could go around 70 laps on a full tank. That being said, I do think that if you're maybe like a Connor Harrington, if you're a Christopher Demerit, trying that undercut really starts to get tempting here.
Cars will get released to get their lap back if they were between the leader and the pace car. Lights go off. We get ready to rumble. Green back out, lap 54 of 160. Harrington's going to be one to watch, of course, as well. And last week, the surprises were John Beautiful, Matt Taylor. They're down in 12th and 13th, maybe struggling a bit more. Today, let's give a shout-out to Mitchell Welker, the number 19 car, up in 6th.
Yeah, Welker's showing a lot of speed here, and Chris Wilhite doing a good job up there in 9th as well for the Indy Alliance Racing. So good to see both of them up there in that top 10.
So our first stint proved i5G good on the short run, power slide, team talent, and the private label team hype may be more comfortable on the long run. Our first caution comes to an end. The pace car off to the safety of pit lane, and Brandon Trainer will get us back underway here in Iowa. Good start from Traino, gets a nice jump on Van der Sant and Malechka, giving him some separation as we build the speed. Tires come up to temperature. He'll lead from Van der Sant, Malechka, Harrington, and Demerit. Welker got a great restart, now trying to look down low on the Team i5G number 1.
That car, Mitchell Welker, is just hounding the back of Christopher Demerit here. Demerit certainly doesn't look very comfortable here in this race, as we see a little bit of blinking issues from the Mitchell Welker car. That damage should heal itself, and in fact it does. But that one of the things I will say is we try not to talk about connection issues, but it is very distracting at a track as small and as compact as Iowa is.
We try not to, but it's one of those realities of sim racing. You just deal with it as best you can. And unlike what we saw in that opening 5-10 laps of the race, Traino not allowed to run away. Van der Sant all over the rear, looking more comfortable, more adaptable, just more settled as it stands right now. He'll look down low, tries to bully Traino up and out of the groove. Van der Sant slides on through, new race leader. The 7 hits the front.
That was a power move there from Alexander Van der Sant. He was sending a message to Traino that his car is working really well, not just in the long run, but in the short run as well. And don't look now, Arjuna, but Connor Harrington right on the back of this leading trio here. Really tight stuff, but we got almost 3 wide coming off of 2 with Demerit, Welker, and Ike.
Of note, Malechka unable to slot past Traino in the same way that we saw Van der Sant able to capitalize on moves Malechka was making in the early stages of the race. Up and almost into the wall. Franzoni hangs on to that car and might even still get it done. Up into the top 10, David Porcelli continues his slide backwards. Franzoni continues to charge forward.
Yeah, this has been a ding-dong battle here for just a few laps here. Lichtenberg, Wilhite, Franzoni, and Porcelli have all been going at each other 3 wide. I've been keeping one eye on it while we've been concentrating on the lead group, and you can see all the different lines that these drivers are running here. So these cars are all working at different stages of the tires. They get very close coming into one with Franzoni and Wilhite. Wilhite nearly gets put in the wall there by Franzoni.
Franzoni uses that opportunity to not just secure a spot of 9th, but challenges for 8th, and in fact will sail on past Brendan Lichtenberg after starting up in 3rd. Lichtenberg sliding backwards lap by lap by lap, and in a similar vein, his teammate Brandon Traino now a deficit of a full second to Alexander Van der Sant, who is running away with clean air on the front of his car. Traino feeling the pressure from behind. Demerit will get passed by Mitchell Welker. Now that's a power move, but here comes Demerit back to the inside.
Yeah, Welker slid up right in front of Demerit, and Demerit was loose coming off of turn 2, but he used it to his advantage and nearly had a response there. But at the same time, got Andreas Ike taking that outside line, and he is going to capitalize on Demerit being on that low line. Suddenly, Demerit finds himself -2 on that exchange.
And our pole position man outside of the top 6. Welker will immediately situate himself in the battle with the number 5 from behind. Remember, Harrington, Ike likely to have very similar cars. Ike will have a look to try and run out of turn 2 and challenge Welker. Content to run up high and give a line to Andreas Ike, and if it's anything like we saw in those opening 20 laps of the race, would not be shocked if that is the move. The Traino train continues to slide backwards though. Malechka, Harrington unable to find a way on through. Harrington trying to find a way to get past Malechka to fight for Traino.
Yeah, Malechka here, he's got to find a way to get some momentum here on Traino, because the problem is that Traino's now getting into that territory where he's getting clean air on his front wing again, so that will help the handling of the car and basically allow him just that little bit of extra buffer to keep Malechka behind. But Malechka's got to be very careful, because Harrington's looking very racy here, staying right up tight behind that rear wing of Rob Malechka. And if Malechka isn't careful, one of these times Harrington is going to look to that inside and potentially make a move on that number 2 car.
And while this group of second on back is losing track of Van der Sant, they aren't being reeled on in just yet by Welker and Ike and even Demerit, so they'll at least take some solace in that for the time being. This time at the line though, 10 to go to hit the halfway marker of this race. Van der Sant dominating 2 seconds clear. Once he got the lead, he has not looked back.
Oh, he has checked out at this point. 2 seconds, as you say, is the gap. And now Malechka's starting to get a little bit more anxious behind Brandon Traino, starting to look to the inside of that number 3 car, but Malechka just can't seem to find a way. Again, he's got to find some momentum here, and Traino's just doing a really good job running that middle lane, not allowing him to really get a run so far.
Right on board with that number 2 machine. You see the view from up above as well will give the opportunity for Malechka to look down low, door to door, almost between the two of them as they almost bump wheels. Malechka still trying to make the inside line work, but Traino covers the outside.
And you can just see how hard it is to keep that car down low as we get on into this run. Malechka doing everything he possibly can to get by Traino, but he's just not able to open up that car on corner exit, and it's costing him the momentum. Meanwhile, Connor Harrington just pacing both of the drivers in front here. I suspect that Connor Harrington might just be in the catbird seat if they come to blows here in the next couple of laps.
And remember why Van der Santen was able to follow Malechka so easily, because he was minding his P's and Q's, saving the tires. Look at Harrington, been waiting for this opportunity. Will try and work on Malechka, who loses some ground in the fight for Traino. Malechka concerns himself now with Harrington. A power move attempted. Traino holds on. Harrington slides on through.
Yeah, very opportunistic from Harrington, and he's not done yet. He's on the inside of Traino, and he does a nice move there. Really easy move there for Connor Harrington. Was able to use that outside momentum, keep that draft down the back straightaway, short as it is, and just power on through. And it'll be interesting to see here whether Harrington will be able to get any time going on Van der Santen here, or whether Van der Santen is able to maintain this gap of about 3 seconds right now.
And again, similar to what we saw with Van der Santen, taking advantage of minding the tires. Harrington, an opportunity, had the tire life to go for it, and as the caution flies, will mix things up, but Connor Harrington might just be in the prime position to challenge Van der Santen on a race restart. Second caution out before the halfway marker. It's Ken Cram stationary and stricken in the middle of the track.
Yeah, and this is going to be some interesting times in terms of pit strategy here. I think, Arjuna, we talked about whether or not you can make it in one stop. It's tight if you want to make it in one stop here. So coming down pit lane, it's going to be a risk, but at the same time, I think a lot of drivers will come down here just for those fresh tires because they do make such a difference, but I don't know whether any of these drivers will be able to stretch it here. It's suddenly gone from a flat-out race to possibly a fuel-save race here.
Remember, the limiting factor might not actually be the fuel itself, but the tires. So with, 30 laps into the run since that previous caution, cars will dive back on in for 4 fresh Firestone tires, a top-off of the fuel, and a recalculation of what pit strategy is going to entail. Again, curved pit lane. We saw Malechka fall afoul of it last time around. The race off a pit road this time by, with Van der Santen sailing through. Harrington in second. Traino will see Welker jump in front of Malechka. Demerit in front of Ike, in front of Franzoni. The scramble was frenetic.
And it's another slow stop for Rob Malechka, and he just can't keep doing that if he wants to have a shot at this race. So I believe he lost at least one, if not 2 positions there. I think he limited it to only 1 position lost there, but really unfortunate stuff for Malechka.
Yes, you're right. Only Welker was able to get through. Demerit managed to jump back in front of Andreas Ike through the cycle of pit stops, 8/10 quicker in pit lane overall. So not too many mix-ups, but as we cross the line, we'll tick over half of the race officially in the books. This restart is the one that changes everything. Might be a fuel mileage race. It might also see Connor Harrington have the chance to take it to Alexander Van der Santen.
And the question here is, Arjuna, if it is going to be a fuel mileage race from here on out, do you want to be the car that's leading? Do you want to be Alexander Van der Santen? Or if you're Van der Santen, do you want to let Connor Harrington go by, maybe use up a little bit of fuel and save that fuel behind him? Because there is... despite it being a short lap and very short straightaways, there is a substantial amount of fuel saving that you can do in the draft and behind another car. So it's going to be very interesting to see what these drivers do in terms of not just the fuel strategy, but how they make that fuel strategy work.
And of course, don't forget that Alexander Van der Santen enjoys a good fuel save race. Let's see what happened and why we're under caution. It was Ken Cram that was involved in the incident. Looked like he was trying to pull low to come to pit lane of his own volition, but it's so tricky to get off of the banking, and that is a mistake that many will have made.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tricky pit in here because of just how small and narrow that the apron is. Some drivers during green flag running even prefer to have sort of an exit off of 4, but that's treacherous in and of itself as well. So definitely a mistake that many others have made before and many others will make in the future as well.
I always mention that a lot of these cars will be running similar setups. However, even within teams, you are going to see variances. I've just heard within the Powerslide Motorsports camp that Robert Malechka took front wing out, I would assume, or maybe it was rear wing. He took wing out before the start of this race. What's that doing to his car, Andrew? Why is he struggling more than Van der Sande seems to be doing?
Well, it just makes it that much more difficult to stay behind another car. If you can get out front with a little bit less downforce, then you can really use that lower downforce to sort of stretch things out, especially down straightaways. But you want that downforce in the corner because basically the more downforce that you can put on the car, the cooler that your tires are going to stay throughout that run. Particularly towards the end of it, and it basically just means that your car doesn't lose the tires as much. It doesn't require as much mechanical grip. It has that aero grip instead. So it's an interesting choice for Malechka to go with the lower downforce setup, and not one not one that I think I would have made there.
I think it's a change that he's trying to type while pacing into Discord, so I will forgive him for his lack of clarity and information, but I think it was a change that he made in the previous caution, and he is now resetting the previous change. So he's back to where he started this race off. It's his teammate that's at the front and looks to be dominant, but Connor Harrington is on the charge to search for victory. Back underway in Iowa. Van der Sande with a good restart. Traino trying to challenge to work his way back to the front.
Rob Malechka not wasting any time on the batch of Mitchell Welker there for that 4th position as well. So it's top 5 starting to run away just a little bit from Christopher Demeritt in 6th, but we have an incident in turn 4 here, Arjuna.
It's Isaac Smith now. Cautions breed cautions, but does he get out of the way in time for us to stay under green? He will. Isaac Smith's sacrifice to the iRacing god sees the race stay under green, and I've got some strategy wild cards for you. Andrew, 76 odd laps to get to the end of this race. You could do it without coming back to pit lane.
You can, but is that in traffic or is that full green all the way? Because that's going to be the issue if you're Alexander Van der Sande. How long can you afford to stay out front? If it is that marginal fuel mileage race, you're going to have to be so careful with that throttle pedal, with your inputs in terms of making sure that you have that number early on in this stint.
Andreas Eick not able to effect a pass on Demeritt, who's 6/10 back from Malechka and has been unable to really do anything to even stay close to Mitchell Welker just yet. If I told you 5 clicks of wing, Andrew, how many clicks does that really mean? How big a change did Malechka make and then swung back towards?
So that's a half a degree if it's front. So I'm assuming that it wasn't the rear, because the rear has a much
yes, it was front wing. Yes.
Less finite one. So that's a half a degree of front wing.
And what would that do to the car, though, more specifically?
So if he was just a little bit on the loose side, maybe he was starting to wear that right rear tire a little bit more than the right front, it would have basically put a little bit more push into the car, just kept that front a little bit, have a little bit more skating to it, a little bit less downforce. So it's basically he was probably just a little bit loose that first run, but now that he's back in traffic again, I think that having that extra front wing is going to be very beneficial for him.
Brandon Traino not just losing track of those front two, but under fire from a road ringer. Mitchell Welker has learnt quickly the art of turning left in an open wheel machine, challenging the king of the bricks and holding back Robert Malechka from effecting a fight for a podium spot. What a drive this has been for the 19 machine.
Absolutely, very impressive there from Mitchell Welker. As you say, he's more known for his road course driving, but he's showing that he's really starting to learn these ovals well, and that's really part of being a part of that Indy Alliance stable of drivers.
Sorry, not Indy Alliance.
Or sorry.
Yes, I know what you meant, though. Yes.
Yes,
All American iRacers, that one.
That's the one. The other AI, you know.
There's just a lot of acronyms and letters.
Yes.
They all conflate once you do enough broadcasts. And Andrew, you are definitely on that, on your way to doing plenty of them. Demerit and Ike, how close do you want to get as not even within 60 laps to go? Ike almost running into the back of Demerit. And we talked about how much do you want to lead this race if it's a race where you can make it to the end. Alexander Van der Sant, Scott Dixon in terms of fuel saving, has said all of it. 1.5 clear of Harrington, who I have to assume, given the strength that we saw of the private label Team Hype number 9, is just trying to hit a fuel number. Malechka and Welker side by side. Welker will hold off that challenge now, but all the while they lose more and more ground. For Connor Harrington, in a nice buffer, you'd have to say, Andrew, he's not scrubbing the tires too much and plenty of dirty air. Maybe that's where he wants to sit. Seem to have lost Andrew Kinsella, unless he's magically going to start talking in my ear again. We'll see what we can do to bring him back. What a tantalizing fight we've got on the cards for you right now, though. While the top two break away, continuing to fight, third on back. Malechka looking down low. The more these two fight without being able to get past Brandon Traino. They're in danger as well of Demerit, Ike behind, starting to push the tempo, push the pressure just that little bit more. A couple of laps from now, 60 to go. Welker, Malechka continuing to rumble side by side. What a fun fight this is. Malechka's getting that dirty air from Traino as he hugs down low. I think we have a certain Andrew Kinsella back in the fun.
I have no idea what happened there, Arjuna. What I was saying was, I think that the strategy for Van der Sant right now is he's going flat out trying to get back to the tail end of the field, because he's only about 5 seconds behind Matt Taylor right now. So he's going to use the traffic as his fuel saving and try and get as much space in between himself and Connor Harrington as possible. But this is where all the interesting things are happening right now. Mitchell Welker working on Brandon Traino. Rob Malechka's already gone by. So Traino, I think, is definitely attempting the fuel save here, because he knows that he can't win this on flat-out pace at this point.
I just wonder if you have to save that much to get to the end. Now I'm looking at the lap times for Van der Sant, and I'm questioning my own sanity here, because he's doing lap times very familiar, very similar to what we've been doing basically this entire race, Andrew. So by that indication, he's not fuel saving, and the rate at which he is pulling away from second on back, maybe there is that strategy wildcard going on.
Yeah, well, and as I say, I think that what Van der Sant is doing is he's trying to catch up to the rear of the field as much as possible, because he will be able to fuel save later on in the stint when he starts to get behind the lap traffic. So I think really that's Van der Sant's play here in terms of potential fuel savings. He's certainly left Connor Harrington in the dust here, and I definitely think that Harrington is trying to fuel save, because we've seen him much faster than he is right now.
That's right on board with Connor Harrington, and listen, fifth gear on the entry to turn one. Can hear him actually clutch in as he coasts in towards the apex, and it's such a difficult mindset to get yourself in, but when you execute properly, you'll find some time. But now 5 seconds back from your race leader. The strategy call will have to work itself out. Rashad Craig trying to get back up to speed. I think another incident, we've gotten very lucky. Two things that could have ruined the fuel-saving fun that we've got going on right now have not been, fortunately, allowed to happen. Rashad Craig down, 1 lap down, 19th spot.
Yeah, that was very close to a caution there with Rashad Craig, but fortunately we were able to stay green here. Meanwhile, Christopher Demerit, he's come around the number 3 car, Brandon Traino. So Traino, I think, definitely on the deep fuel save here. Demerit, I'm almost wondering whether he's sort of maybe trying to be the rabbit here, or thinking that even with the fuel save, they just won't be able to make it, because it is a long stretch here in order to make it on this final stint with no stops here.
You say it's a long save. Our good friend Klutz disagrees. We'll find out who's right. That's the beauty of motorsport. You have a finite set of time before you know what the end result is actually going to be. Malechka's caught the back of Harrington. Demerit, Traino continue to squabble. They started on the front row, down to 4th and 5th for the time being. Welker slid back to 7th, in front of Franzoni, Porcelli, and Wilhite, who make up the rest of the top 10. With 50 to go, and Traino getting past Demerit. The reality is, we have no idea, because we don't have the fuel numbers, what the actual likelihood of all of these drivers getting to the end is going to be. You just go back to the form book, where you have to assume if Van der Sande is in a fuel-safe race, he knows what he's doing.
You do have to a certain extent, and I will say, with all due respect to Klutz in the YouTube chat there, if Connor Harrington is clutching in the middle of the corner, that tells me that it's a fairly big save, because that means that not just being off throttle is enough. You actually have to sort of cut the engine out in the middle of the corner. So to me, that means that it's a fairly long save for these guys.
And Malechka will get past Harrington without too much of a fight. Malechka's also, with that same tempo, trying to work forward, albeit with a 6-second disadvantage to his teammates. So if Malechka's going, maybe he's on a similar sort of a strategy to his teammate out front. I love these kind of races where we have no idea what is going on. When you think about the history of Iowa and IndyCar as well, so many memorable races, although, you know, watching some of the clips back, building up for today's broadcast, Andrew, it's always so stark, such a stark contrast when you see any IndyCar without an aero screen. You think how crazy we were to go racing without that little piece of plexiglass.
Absolutely, and I would say credit to IndyCar for making a safety device that looks so natural with these cars that it almost looks foreign to have cars without it at this point, because it really has integrated well with that IR18 chassis. Yes, there's a little bit of a weight issue that some of the drivers in real life would say needs to be overcome come the next car, but it really is still just this beautiful chassis that we see on this IR18, and IndyCar's done a good job of not only having that safety aspect, but having the aesthetic aspect as well.
I think it looks like a fighter jet, and there aren't too many things that are cooler than fighter jets, if we're being honest. Lap times between your leader and Connor Harrington have stabilized, almost identical last time around, and Harrington doing a good job to stay in the draft of Malechka. Demerit Welker resuming the battle. Aaron McQuarrie will peel onto pit road, but he was a lap down, so wasn't something that we were considering anyway in terms of carving through the field. Welker will get in front. Let's now go back in time, though, and pick up what happened to the unfortunate Rashad Craig as he worked his way on the exit of turn 4. He's going to loop it by himself.
Yeah, you can see just a little bit too much weight jacker in that car, and it just loops around on itself, and he was fortunate to just spin into that infield without going too close to that inside wall, and was able to keep going basically after a 360 there. Meanwhile, Mitchell Welker has gotten around Christopher Demerit. So Demerit, who was up in 4th not 10 laps ago, he's back down in a 7th spot, so I think that the fuel save is on for him as well. And then at the back of the field, Van der Sande in the traffic, he's lapped Roofs and Taylor already, so he is quickly carving his way through the back of this field.
There's your race leader running into turn 1. Of the 23 that started, 21 are still running, although just 13 left on the leading lap. See the white and purple car, so comfortable. Looks like he's driving within himself. Lap times last time around, a little bit slower for Harrington as they try and work through traffic, but it's marginal. It's here and there, the give and take. Demerit continues to lose spots, though. Franzoni will slide up his inside. Those i5G cars, you know, sometimes we've seen them hit the setups week after week after week. Today, one that they'll look to forget as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, although I do think that Demerit here is in just deep fuel-saving mode, trying to make it to the end, because I think he was pushing harder at the beginning of this stint, and he's just realized that he needs to back off here, and that's what he's doing. At the same time, Van der Sande, to me, he's looking more and more likely that he's just trying to go as hard as he can, and maybe have one stop here. I think we'll know in the next 5 to 10 laps or so if Van de Sant isn't going to make it, because he'll be coming down pit road and trying to use the final 30 laps to reel in as many people as possible.
New Jersey's David Porcelli now fighting to work past Demerit. Don't forget that with the lap so short, if you run out a lap early, you could coast an entire lap and potentially have a gap that would still see you take victory. So never say never. Alexis Newsom memorably in 2021 in a Monday night IndyCar race here live on RaceSpotTV at the Brickyard. Ran out of fuel, coasting into turn 3 on the final lap. Still managed to come out on top. I think the margin of victory, 0.02 of a second. 7 seconds is a comfortable enough lead that if the lap times are equal for Van de Sant and Malechka, if Van de Sant's only 1 lap short, do not count him out. We mentioned him earlier, Christian Steele, not putting in a qualifying lap time, has struggled to work his way up, Andrew.
And in fact, Van de Sant has just gotten around Christian Steele and Laura Gerhardt here, and you're right, Steele just hasn't been able to work his way through the field, and I really do think that the I5G boys have just missed the setup just that little bit, and you can tell even if Steele is fuel saving now, that front end of the kart's just not turning, particularly in the middle of the corner. He's really putting a lot of wheel into it, and it's just the front end is just taking off towards that concrete wall and safer barrier on the outside. So I think it's just a little bit of a miss, and combined with a poor starting position for Steele, it's really spelled disaster for him.
Yeah, I think the importance of starting positions to some, even a race with cautions, are very much de-emphasized, especially in endurance races. I've felt this so often. If you're in a 12-hour race, yes, it's not the end of the world if you start 15, but you're starting 14 cars away from the leader, and if things get split up and you separate out, you just slowly lose track of those in front of you. Track position, so important to keep control of. Less than 30 to go. Steele loses a spot to the number 16 of Matt Taylor. Still lots of questions that we wait for answers for. David Henger will come down onto pit road. Another car that was 1 lap down. He boxes from 17th position. The real danger, though, here, Andrew, if you ask me, is if with 5 to go you find yourself needing fuel. You mentioned this earlier. You pit here, you don't lose 1 lap, you lose 2 laps.
Yeah, although if you're Van de Sant, you might be able to come out in front of Malechka and only be 1 lap down, but still, that's way worse than being in that lead spot, and I think that's who we have to look out for is Van de Sant and Malechka. Harrington has been able to stay behind Malechka throughout this run, basically, and any fuel-saving woes that Harrington might have has certainly been helped by the fact that he's just following in Malechka's footsteps throughout this entire run, basically. So I think it's the power slide duo at the front that we really have to keep an eye on, but we've seen Van de Sant pull off fuel-saving miracles before, and he's 7.5 seconds in front of his teammate, so he clearly knows something that we don't at this point.
Yeah, picked the pace up, 17.7 a lap ago, 17.88 this time by Brendan Lichtenberg. Will roll it to pit road, conceding that he cannot make it to the end as we go up on the jacks, get some tires at the same time. And Lichtenberg will be back in action this Wednesday on the iRacing Esports Network for round 9 and 10. Oh, the way that we number things is always confusing me. Rounds 9 and 10 of your iRacing Off-Road All-Star Invitational, as we have the most fun that we have anywhere across of all of sim racing. The gap has opened up, of course, between your race leaders, but while Malechka and Harrington have been lockstep for the last 20-25 laps, they haven't really broken away from Traino, Ike, Welker, and that gaggle behind them either. We've still got 2.5 seconds splitting 2nd through 6th positions here, Andrew.
Yeah, 2nd through 6th is definitely very close together, but at the same time, you look, Demerit is now 1 lap down. When was the last time that you saw Demerit lapped on track and not through a mistake of some kind? But it's very, very interesting to see all the different strategies that are being employed right now. And Van de Sant on pit lane here, Arjuna.
So that's the sign. The flat-out approach Alexander Van de Sant had been championing. We'll see him down to pit lane, but with crucially, some time to work. Will be less than 20 laps. We'll see where we will come out, where we will feed out, and how quickly he's going to be able to go. Malechka now has been punching the hole in the air for Connor Harrington. Does he have enough? So Robert Malechka leads this race as Alexander Van der Sant will stay just one lap down for the time being. And as Alexander Van der Sant loops it on the exit of pit road, well, it's academic now what he can do to charge back through the field.
Yeah, that was suboptimal, is the best way that I can describe that. Somehow he was able to keep going and keep it off the wall, but that has certainly cost him a lot of time there, Arjuna.
Yeah, let's pick this up immediately, because this is not the first time this year that we've seen Van der Sant make mistakes with pit road execution. This time as he tries to get back up to speed. It doesn't matter where you make the mistake though. The reality is, at this level, mistakes are costly. Van der Sant 2 laps down, stuck in 15th spot now.
Yeah, now the thing with Van der Sant is if everyone had to pit here, then he would probably be fine, but I just don't think that most of these people are going to have to pit again, and so it's cost him basically a good 5, maybe 7 seconds in terms of actual time that he'll have to make up on track. You can see him carring his way through this field right now, though, so he definitely has a fast car with the low fuel and the fresh tires, but I just don't think it's going to be enough anymore.
The gap between Malechka and Harrington has opened up, albeit slightly, almost now a full second. Worst case scenario if you're Van der Sant is try and help your teammate out. Try not to make him 3 wide as they fly into turn 1. Fresh rubber will pull Van der Sant back to just 1 lap down. That was a close moment though. Malechka almost running into roofs.
Yeah, absolutely. Heart and mouth moment there for Malechka, and probably not ideal to have that happen with your teammate, but at the same time, if there is one guy that you can trust to do that, it's probably your teammate in that scenario, because you know that he won't be trying to do anything too close to you at that point. But Van der Sant clearly with a very fast car, but just not enough laps with only 10 to go here.
Yeah, coming to that 10 lap to go marker. It's 7/10 that splits Malechka from Harrington. If Malechka has enough fuel, he's got the position, the track position, to control the rest of this race. They are a further 2 seconds clear of Brandon Traino in no man's land. 2-horse fight for the win, coming to the line, 9 laps to go.
You say 2-horse fight, but I'm not sure just with how hard that Harrington and Malechka have pushed it that we can really count out Traino, Ike, or Welker here, because it's going to be fuel mileage just as much as pace. So the question for Rob Malechka is, with 8 to go, now coming to 7 to go, do you have enough fuel in the tank if you're Rob Malechka?
Traffic did not help out Connor Harrington there. He lost a little bit more ground, a car length, maybe 2. Now stuck behind Powerslide Motorsports' Laura Gerhard as they work through turn 4 to the line once more. The gap is over a second. It's growing. Malechka, if he's not good on fuel, he's not showing it. That car's still flying.
Yeah, well, if I was Malechka, I wouldn't be showing what I am on fuel to anyone else. If I'd be trying to make Harrington burn as much fuel as possible here. You can see Traino is now 4 seconds behind Malechka, so he's really let off over the last couple of laps here. But Malechka still flat out with 5 to go now.
Fuel mileage races are sometimes slow, but they're what racing is truly about. The anticipation of the moment before it happens. 5 to go. We wondered if Van der Sant was good. He pushed too hard. Malechka continues to lead at the front. Has he flown too close to the sun? We're not far away from finding out. Harrington closes a couple of hundredths last time around.
That's the point of no return here. The next flag will end up, be it the caution or be it the checkered flag. Is going to be so important here that Malechka just stays focused. Harrington not letting him escape down the gap, back now down under a second here.
John Beaudefour has had to come to pit lane. He's another one not good on fuel. He'll finish this one after a blockbuster appearance 7 days ago, down in 20th spot. Malechka trying to give himself some more breathing room, now tries to lap David Porcelli to leave just 6 left on the lead lap. 2 to go. Malechka sails past Porcelli. The gap down though to just 3/4 of a second.
Coming up to the white flag for Rob Malechka. This is the point where it doesn't matter whether you have enough fuel. You're just flat out on this final lap and just hope that you have enough fuel to get across that start-finish line.
If you sputter from here, you still might have a podium in your hands, but out of turn 3 in what's been a up and down roller coaster in Iowa, Robert Malechka builds back to take victory in round 6 of the 2022 Season 3 iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. The fuel mileage was good for him, the two able to hold on to the end of the race.
What a fuel mileage run there from Malechka, and Connor Harrington keeping him really honest there, down to a gap of 1.4 seconds at the finish line. Andreas Eick pips Brandon Trano, who was basically sputtering coming off a 4 there, and Eick able to have a 2-3 there for Team Talon on the podium.
But celebrating back in victory lane, it's a Powerslide Motorsports day as Robert Malechka wins in Iowa to put that number 2 red and white Dallara IR18 back on the top step of the podium. 160 laps flew on past. What a race it was. Just 2 cautions to slow us down in a field stacked with 23 Dallara IR18s. As always, such an enjoyable way to spend our Monday night, whether we're racing, whether up here in the commentary booth as well. Delighted to have your company here on RaceSpotTV. Let's run you down through the results after the 160 laps of action. It is a Powerslide Motorsports driver at the front, albeit not the one that many would have thought. Alexander Van der Sant was the star. Robert Malechka, though, was patient, got the car back where it needed to be, and ends the day on top, 1.3 seconds clear of Connor Harrington, who drove his way up through the field after qualifying down in 12th, up into 2nd spot. Andreas Eick will sneak in front of Brandon Trano at the very end of the race to put 2 Team Talent / private label Team Hype cars on the podium. Mitchell Welker, a blockbuster day for him to get up into the top 5. Rodrigo Franzoni is our hard charger today, 14 positions gained to make it up into the top 6, while David Porcelli, the first car 1 lap down, is in 7th. What a final run of green flag laps we had to get to the very end of this race. Laura Gerhard, Matt Taylor, and Christian Steele will make up the rest of the top 10. For Christian Steele, at least some solace in the fact that he was perseverant in his charge back from the tail end of the field. Alexander Van der Sant tried and waited for a caution. It did not fly. He finishes this race in 11th, chastised as well with his exit on the mistake on the exit of pit lane. Chris Wilhite as well, 1 lap down with Christopher Demerit and Brendan Lichtenberg. Started inside of the top 3, 13th and 14th. Frustrating day overall for Team I5G. Aaron Roos, Aaron McQuarrie, the other cars 2 laps down with Rashad Craig and David Hanger involved in incidents, finishing 3 laps down, 17th and 18th. Ken Cram and John Bodeford rounding out the rest of the top 20. Kevin Burrell, Isaac Smith, and Robin Glennox make up the rest of the 23 cars that stacked up at the start of this race, albeit for the 3 of them, misfortune was around the corner. Not all of our contenders making it to the end of this race. Let's not dawdle too much longer. Let's slide down to victory lane where Robert Malechka is standing by. And Rob, what an up and down race that was for you. You made the wrong call in the first cycle of pit stops, corrected it the second time around, and then had to watch the fuel mileage game all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, firstly, huge shout out to Hugo, Alex, and Adam. We've been struggling on the short tracks, and it looks like we found something. But yeah, Alex kind of shoved something up there with like 5 minutes left, and I thought it was, I didn't do any laps, so I was worried it was going to be a bit too loose, but I took out too much wing and was plowing those first 2 runs behind Trano. But yeah, and then, we got that caution with 82 to go and made it a pretty massive fuel mileage race, and yeah, luckily to come out on top, and it's a shame what happened to Alex because he definitely had the speed to win there.
So 2 drivers, similar setups, similar positions on track, but very different strategies. Why did you go counter to what Alex did? How important was it for you as well to get to the front of the train to control your own fuel saving from there?
Yeah, I just kept, with the slower pit stops because of adding front wing, I just kept losing spots on pit road. So really that ultimately helped me getting back in, I think I was P4, P5 there. And I was getting some massive numbers those first 15 to 20 laps behind Trano. And with those massive numbers, I was able to get the track position because I wanted that, and was hoping to catch Connor because I wasn't really sure what strategy he was on. It looked like he was kind of pushing with Alex, but yeah, I caught Connor, got some really good numbers after that, and with I think 30 to 40 to go, I just released and knew I had a pretty easy number to make it to the end there.
Your appearances this season have been a bit hit or miss. As we finish up the first half of the season, we get ready for a second half that will see us travel around America to the best tracks that we've got to offer, with the exception of Charlotte. We're looking forward to seeing you a lot more the rest of the season, or you got some other plans on the agenda?
Yeah, if I could run at least probably half the races. Honestly, I'm kind of addicted to teamfight tactics right now. But yeah, I plan on probably running at least half. But with this Iowa race today, it was a great warm-up for most of these guys in here that run the Lionheart IndyCar Series, which we'll be racing here, I believe, next Wednesday. So looking forward to that as well.
Got the plugs in as well. Congratulations, Robert. Looking forward to seeing you 7 days from now, hopefully, as we head to Indianapolis and the Grand Prix layout.
Yep, thanks, boys. Have a good one.
Robert Malechka victorious here today, but second step after working his way forward. Connor Harrington standing by with Andrew Kinsella.
And Connor, it was a really close thing there at the end. How close were you on fuel?
We were really close. We sputtered over the line. I think what ultimately did us in, though, is I caught the fence during the last stint, and I guess I bent the end fence of the front wing. So we were just down on performance there, and I don't know. I think we could have maybe had something for Rob. I think our setup was really good on the long run. It's just I just made a mistake and I wasn't able to show it.
Yeah, no, we noticed that you were sort of being able to pick your lines probably better than anyone else on the track, particularly early on there. How much do you think that played a factor in your strategy as the race went on?
Well, yeah, we had to come from the back. We botched qualifying. We got loose in turn 3 and 4, so we didn't really get a great lap in there. But the plan was kind of just if we could move forward, and if we were stuck, to save fuel. And the car was just really, really good. We really focused on the long run pace when we were developing the setup this week, and it really paid off. So I really have to thank everybody at Team Talent, especially Jason Brophy, calling with no internet to give me a hand. We were panicking here late, thinking that our setup wasn't that good, and it turned out to be a rocket ship.
Awesome, and we'll get you out of here on this one. We got we got one half of the season down, one half of the season to go. Which is the race that you've got circled on your track for the second half of the season?
Indy Road. I think it's my best road course. I know a lot of people don't like it. Maybe we're running the new layout next week. Who knows? That would be interesting. Personally, I ride for the get rid of the infield turn 1 section, but I'm sure it will be really good. We've only ran 4 races this year, and we've got this season, and we've got 2 wins and 2 seconds. So even though in the point standing it doesn't show that we're up there at the top, I'm really happy with the 4 results that I do have. So hopefully we can keep the momentum up for our private label team hype, and maybe we'll get ourselves the championship this year, or at least have a chance to.
Awesome. That was Connor Harrington with a very strong second place finish here today.
Well, and unfortunately, because it's early in the morning, Andreas Ike is not going to be able to grab a chat with us. Instead, we'll talk to someone that started at the front, but it went bad from there. He was chatting with his competitors, but we're joined by Christopher Demerit now. Chris, difficult race for you there. Qualifying went well. Talk to us about what happened after that, though.
Yeah, qualifying was the highlight, and then that was everyone's downhill from there. I was just struggling with the car. We seemed to be more competitive in the practice before the race, and then I'm not sure what was different, but everyone else seemed to pick up more pace than we did. So just struggling. And then at the very end, I decided to push the fuel saving off until late, which in hindsight I would have started earlier, but I mean, at least it made it interesting because then I actually had something to do even though I was going straight back. But you win some, you lose some, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. Hindsight's also 20/20, right? You can have all of those little common phrases in there. I mean, as we look forward, though, I want to ask the question that I think a lot of people have been excited about. The new Indianapolis Motor Speedway coming to iRacing in the very, very short future. How excited are you to have maybe some new stuff to go and dial in at the Brickyard.
I'm very excited. If nothing else, just for Indy to get revamped in terms of graphics.
Hey, my frames are already struggling, okay?
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that part. Yeah, that might be a little bit rough, but I mean, I'm definitely excited about the oval. The road course layout is a lot better. I don't like the old one, but I imagine the oval will drive similarly and produce similar racing, but I'm very excited for it to look a lot prettier and a lot just better in general for as big of an event as it is.
Well, the release date is TBD, so we'll figure that one out shortly. Thanks for joining us, Chris. Sorry about the struggle bus that i5G seemed to be on today, and hopefully we'll see you bounce back next time out.
Yep, thank you.
Christopher Demerit taking the time to join us down in 13th spot. Let's talk, though, very quickly about the finish to the race. We mentioned how close it was between Andreas Eich and Brandon Traino, but words can only do so much. Let's cycle it back. Let's go look at the replay. You'll see Traino runs out of fuel here. Going to the line, Andreas Eich around the outside will steal the podium spot away from the King of the Bricks. What goes through your mind there, Andrew, as you sit there and you see the car roll on past to steal that spot from you?
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking for Traino there. You're just thinking, come on, just a little bit longer. And literally it was probably like another 50 feet even of fuel, and he would have been just fine there. So heartbreaking for Brandon Traino, but at the same time, he's had a lot of success this season. So let's make things a little bit more interesting and have a few more struggles. Yeah,
let's have some other people have a chance of victory. Should be noted, I think second week in a row that pole position has been stolen from him by his teammate Christopher Demerit, but I have no doubt that next time on a road course, that is unlikely to happen. And let's talk about it. Next time we head back to Speedway, Indiana for round 7 of this championship. We kick off the second half of the campaign, and it's going to be significant, as likely for many the final time they will competitively go around this old version of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's, I'm sure, frustrating to some that they can't ride around the new one, but at the very least, Andrew, they don't have to do a whole bunch of setup work on very short notice.
Yeah, and count me as one of the people who will not be sad to see the back of some of the corners on that old layout, that inner loop that they go through. It's
it's bad.
It was bad. It was just bad. There's no other way to put it. So definitely looking forward to having the new layout, but it's good to have one final race here on that old style layout that did produce some fairly entertaining races in the Formula One, but I'm just excited to have the proper IndyCar layout as well here.
I've got a couple of messages from people asking if Open Wheels is going to run a road course race. It's definitely now something I've got to think about. Very excited about this as we look forward to the next future races at Indianapolis, of course. Next year's Indianapolis, iRacing Indianapolis 500 is going to be something big. Here's a final look at the schedule as we get set to wrap things up from Iowa. Half the season done, half the season to go. We'll stay inside of America, and with the possible exception of our trip to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, it is the best of the best that we can go to across of America. Bring Ms. Delara IR18 to showcase IndyCar's finest here on iRacing to you all live on RaceSpotTV. For tonight, though, it is time to bid you farewell. What a day it was. Fascinating race with strategy. Setup struggles for some, setup jubilation for others. Plenty of hard charges, but only one winner. Robert Malechka back to victory lane in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. On behalf of the team at RaceSpotTV, we thank you for your company tonight. For Andrew Kinsella and for myself, Arjuna Kankipati, we bid you farewell from Iowa. Next time up, we go to Speedway, Indiana, where IndyCar fans are happy.